Welcome to this lecture on the notion of embedded food system that is at the core of the Good Food program. I am Caroline Brand, researcher and lecturer in geography at ISARA Lyon. The objective of this lecture is to give you some frameworks about the ways social sciences have invented categories to help our society in sizing the complex reality of the social world and accompany its political orientations. First, we will review the different categories that are at the basis of the study of the food systems. The aim is to understand that food systems are structured through development models and that those models allow social sciences to characterize and distinguish diverse types of food systems. These categories are used to identify the nodes of tension and societal transformation. From there, we will go through the specific notion of embedded food system, so as to understand the specific contribution of this notion in the comprehension of the food system, and in particular, alternative and territorialized food systems. The objective will also be to identify some indicators that you could mobilize for the analysis of your case study. Food systems are the way human settlements organize themselves in space and time to obtain and consume their food. Those organizations have evolved through time because of internal dynamics that have induced specific characteristics for the different elements composing the food chain, from food production to food waste treatment. Those characteristics have allowed researchers in social sciences to identify two specific categories to understand the evolution of the food system after the Second World War. The first one is the conventional food system of the agro-industrial and agro-tertiary age. The second one is the alternative local food system that emerged in reaction to the dominant conventional food system. In addition to these two main categories, more recently, there are the emerging models of hybrid territorialized food systems that integrate characteristics of the first and of the second model. These categories make it possible to understand the behaviors of the stakeholders of the food system, to identify the categories to which they belong, and to size more comprehensively the food system's organizations and evolutions. The conventional food system is the dominant regime after the Second World War. The term regime describes a model that frames and guides the evolution of society. This conventional regime can be described as intensive, specialized, concentrated, financialized, and globalized. Its main characteristics are therefore a productivist agriculture, a concentrated sector, long food supply chain with many stakeholders, where food is deterritorialized in the end. This conventional food system have allowed the feeling of a growing population of non-farmers. But it has also induced several major failures that today interrogate the sustainability and resilience of our societies. From the acknowledgement of these limits, opposed movements have challenged this model and have reorganized the geographies of the food system. From the 1960s with farmers' movement and from the 2000s with consumers' movements, specific organization of the food system have emerged. Even if they are very diverse forms of organization, they are all characterized with opposed characteristics to the dominant conventional regime, with smaller enterprises, localized markets, ecological or ethical agriculture, where food is re-territorialized in the end. More globally, this category is related to the territorial turn of the global economy that occurred in the 1980s, which saw the development of geographically ensured business organization models in opposition to a spatial Fordism mode of development. And this is precisely there that the word embedded have started to be used by researchers to characterize the specific food system organizations that could be observed at that time. This alternative food system has started from the research of quality to promote a different way of production and to valorize the product's specific relations to the human community and environment in which they have been produced compared to the standard industrial food products of the conventional food system. In the last decades, new organizations have emerged based on the research of a relational proximity between producers and consumers. Short food supply chains are particularly emblematic of this movement. And more recently, it is the reduction of the geographical distance between space of production and consumption that is highly valorized. Agriculture is taking on new specialities. But those alternative food systems are also facing several limits that make them controversial too. And in the meantime, the stakeholders of the dominant conventional food system are adapting to the emerging alternative food system. They are incorporating its specific characteristics. This results in a porous and blurred line between the two initial models. Our food systems are less binary and more complex. So nowadays, researchers use diverse terms to try to size those more hybrid, mixed organizations that incorporate characteristics of the two main models, such as the notion that you see here of territorialized sustainable food systems or mid-tier food systems. A common feature of those hybrid organizations is that they are all very much enshrined into a territory. This is why we also call them territorialized food systems and not just hybrid. And they are called hybrid because they combine diverse models of organization. In those modes of organizations, three issues are still less totally incorporated: agroecological, health and social justice issues. And in the Good Food program, the notion of embedded food system is proposed as an opportunity to push forward the considerations regarding this. So, what are the inputs of embedded food system notion regarding the analysis of alternative and hybrid territorialized food systems in particular? And what indicators could you mobilize in the analysis of your case study? As we saw previously, the notion of embeddedness is mobilized by some researchers conducting analysis on the food system specifically. It is in particular used to qualify the emergence of the alternative food system, amongst other qualifications that appeared by the 90s to try to size the opposed modes of organization of the food system regarding the conventional food system. In those publications, embedded food system expresses the fundamental shift from a global food from nowhere regime to a food from somewhere regime. But to understand the scope of the notion, we need to explain its origin. The term embedded comes from specific analysis in economic sociology, economy and history. It has been mainly developed by three major researchers: Carl Polanyi, Marc Granovetter and Alain Caillet. To sum up very quickly, they have shown that one cannot understand economical phenomena without taking into account their specific relations to social phenomena. From this origin, the notion has been used by food system researchers to refer to the social and natural entourage of a food system. An embedded food system is ensured in a very specific social and environmental relations. So, what can we take on from this origin and use of the notion for the Good Food program to push forward the analysis on alternative and territorialized food systems? First, it invites us to interrogate to what extent food systems relate to people, policies, and environment. It also underlines the importance of socio-technical networks, as all economic activities are embedded in social networks. As we have shown, alternative food systems are controversial, and so is the notion of embeddedness. What is interesting in those critiques is that first it invites us to pay attention to the involvement and engagement of local stakeholders toward embedded food systems. And in particular, how do the stakeholders deal with the fundamental characteristics of alternative food systems? How do they really integrate alternative features, such as the notion of quality, for instance? The critiques also insist on the necessity to assess broadly the benefits of such so-said embedded food systems and how they really relate to economic, environmental, social, cultural, and political issues. In the publication on embedded food systems such as this one, what is particularly interesting regarding what we just mentioned and the sake of a better integration of agroecological, health and social justice issues in alternative and hybrid territorialized feed systems is that they put forward the fact that the link to territories is an opportunity to relate ecological, social and economical stakes about food issues. As a result, theoretically, embedded food system notion allows a multidimensional and systemic perspective on food system. From there, embedded food system notion in the GOODFOOD program needs to be seen as an invitation to study your case study through the lens of three major issues. How does your case study address economical, social, and ecological stakes of food issues in a given territory? This implies a specific attention to the social worlds of policies and citizen actions and issues, food supply chain stakeholders, and environment and agroecological practices. Amongst other questions, you may wonder, is this food system developed through interactions and partnerships between various stakeholders? Does it allow the circulation and accessibility of food locally? What is the role of public policies in this food system? How does it take into account the environmental and agroecological issues of the territory? You could also use the following proposed indicators, partly issued from publications on embedded food systems and publications related to the development of local food policies that we will see in week 5. Some take-home messages to finish this lecture. 3 main categories exist to size the evolutions and models that characterize our food systems. There are many notions between those 3 categories, amongst which is the notion of embedded food system. Those notions result both from intellectual debates and from the transformation of the food economy. They are observation glasses that allow to size specific dimensions of those transformations at a given moment, to draw the attention on them. Embedded food system notion in the GOODFOOD program is an invitation to study and challenge alternative territorialized food systems through the lens of economical, social, and ecological stakes of food issues. Here are the main references used for this lecture. Thank you for your attention and see you soon, hopefully.